Title: I was in a relationship with an abuser and didn't realize it until it was almost too late. Part 1. Posted by you/throwaway Bruiseheart. I've lurked on this subreddit for years. I've read so many stories here and thought, damn, how did they not see it? And then I lived it. This is hard to write. I've been sitting on it for a while. But something inside me said that maybe, just maybe, if I put this out into the world, it might help someone else. Or maybe it'll help me. Either way, this is my story, and it's going to be long. 3 parts long, probably. I don't know how to summarize years of manipulation and pain in one post, so bear with me. Let's start at the beginning. Part 1. The Charmer. I met Lena at a friend's birthday party in 2018. She walked in wearing this oversized denim jacket, with her hair in a messy bun and Doc Martens that had clearly seen better days. She wasn't the loudest in the room, but she had this presence. Like, he noticed her, even if she wasn't trying to be noticed. She laughed at my joke about the vegan cupcakes. So this is what sadness tastes like. And just like that, we started talking. We clicked immediately. She was smart, sarcastic, just a little intimidating, and had this way of making me feel like the most interesting person in the room. Like, fully tuned in. That kind of attention is addictive, especially for someone like me who had just gotten out of a 3-year relationship with someone who barely looked up from his phone. Anyway, we started dating a week later. The first 3 months were a dream. Like, actually, Lena would leave little notes in my jacket pockets, cook dinner for me after work, and show up with my favorite snacks just because she felt like I needed them. She said things like, "I've never felt this close to anyone before," and "I don't usually open up to people like this." And when she cried the first time we had sex, full on, silent tears streaming down her cheeks, she said it was because she'd never felt so safe before. I didn't know then, but that was the start of the hook. The little things that weren't so little. Lena was intense. Not in a violent or angry way, not yet, but in a way that made me feel needed. Like, deeply needed. She'd text me constantly throughout the day. And if I didn't respond quickly, she'd say stuff like, "I know you're probably busy, but my anxiety is through the roof today. Are you mad at me? I just feel like I care more than you do sometimes." So I started replying faster. I told myself, it's not a big deal. She just has anxiety. And I do think she did. Or maybe that's just what I needed to believe. We started spending every night together. It wasn't even a question. She just kind of moved in without asking. Left a toothbrush, then a drawer of clothes, then somehow had half the closet. I loved her. I did. But there were moments, little red flags that I swept under the rug. Like the way she'd subtly put down my friends. She didn't like my best friend Jess, said she had mean girl energy, and was toxic. When I defended Jess, Lena would say, "It's just weird that you get so defensive of her. You never defend me like that." And I'd feel like crap. Like, was I picking my friend over my girlfriend? Eventually, I stopped hanging out with Jess as much. Then it was my other friends. Then even my sister. Lena always had a reason. They were too judgmental. They were bad for my mental health. They didn't respect our relationship. The cracks begin. The first time Lena raised her voice at me, it was over a coffee mug. No, seriously. I accidentally chipped the handle of this mug her mom had given her. It was an honest mistake. I felt awful. But Lena lost it. "Do you even give a sh*t about my things? That was the one thing I had left from my mom after she died." I froze. Her mom wasn't dead. She was living in Phoenix. I had literally seen a text from her that morning. But when I reminded Lena of that, she blinked and said, "Whatever. Same difference. She's dead to me." It was the weirdest moment. like watching someone rewrite reality in front of you. But she started crying, and then I felt like the asshole. She told me she felt abandoned, like nobody ever cared about her stuff, her memories, her. And so I apologized. I glued the mug back together and wrote her a card saying how much she meant to me. It became a pattern. She'd explode, then cry, then I'd comfort her. And slowly, without realizing it, I stopped trusting my own instincts. I started thinking, maybe I am too careless. Maybe I do say things the wrong way. Maybe I'm just not trying hard enough. The isolation. By 2019, Lena and I were living together full-time. My apartment, my name on the lease, but her stuff was everywhere. She'd quit her job, which I thought was temporary, and at first I didn't mind picking up the slack. She said she was burned out and needed time. Totally fair. But months passed. Then a year. She always had a reason for not going back to work. Too anxious. Too depressed. The job market sucked. Nobody appreciated her talents. Meanwhile, I was working 10-hour days and coming home to someone who would either be asleep, crying, or raging because I didn't text enough. She'd say stuff like, "It's just really hard being alone all day. You don't understand how lucky you are to have purpose." I started feeling guilty for having a job, for having anything outside of her. She went through my phone one night while I was sleeping. I woke up to her holding it, scrolling through my texts. "Who the F***ck is Sarah? My coworker. We were talking about the budget meeting. Why is she using emojis?" That turned into a 4-hour fight, during which I had to show her every text I'd sent in the past 3 months. She said I had micro-cheated, and that emotional infidelity was just as bad as physical. I started dreading going to sleep. The gaslight years. Looking back, I think 2020 was when things got dark. We were in lockdown. Trapped in that apartment. Nowhere to go. No escape. Lena's moods were like weather systems. Sudden, overwhelming, and completely out of my control. One morning, I made a joke. Something small like, "Wow, we've officially watched everything on Netflix." Lena's face went blank. "You think I'm boring?" I laughed, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. "No, babe. I just meant, don't call me babe when you're mocking me." She didn't talk to me for 2 days after that. 2 days. In the same one-bedroom apartment. Silent treatment. I tried to apologize again and again, but it was like living with a ghost. And when she did talk again, it was to say, "You need to be more careful with your words. You don't realize how cruel you sound." And again, I believed her. One night changed everything. This is where I'll end part 1, because what happened next deserves its own post. But I'll say this. There was a night, a fight, that scared me in a way I hadn't felt since I was a kid living in a volatile household. Something about the way she looked at me, how fast she moved, the tone in her voice. It finally made something click. But not before a moment I'll never forget. Not before something happened that made me realize just how deep I was in, and how much of myself I'd lost. I'll post part 2 soon. If you've read this far, thank you. It means more than you know. The night everything shifted. It was August 2020. Middle of lockdown. We hadn't left the apartment in days except for groceries, and tensions were already high. Lena had been in one of her colder moods for about a week. You know the kind, short answers, lots of passive aggression, and that awful weight of silence pressing on your chest all day. That night, I made spaghetti for dinner. I was trying. I even bought her favorite wine. We sat down to eat, and I asked, gently, if she wanted to talk about anything. She didn't look up. "You always say that, but you don't really want to hear it." I put my fork down. My stomach did that thing, that twist like you're on a roller coaster about to drop. I do want to hear it. If something's wrong, what's wrong is that I live with someone who's emotionally abusive and pretends he's the victim. It was like a slap. I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I was in shock. Wait. Me? I'm emotionally abusive? She stood up so fast her chair screeched. Don't gaslight me. That's exactly what you do. Every time I bring up how you hurt me, you make me feel crazy. You laugh in my face. I wasn't laughing at you. I was. No. I'm done. You're AF * king narcissist. She stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door. I sat at the table for at least an hour, spaghetti untouched. I was shaking. Because somewhere in the back of my mind, a little voice whispered, what if she's right? The aftermath. That night, I slept on the couch. Not because she asked me to. She didn't come out of the room at all, but because I was terrified. Terrified of setting her off again. Terrified of what she might say next. Terrified that I was losing my grip on reality. The next morning, she came out like nothing happened. Sat next to me on the couch and put her head on my shoulder. Sorry for last night. I was just overwhelmed. You've been so patient with me. I don't deserve you. And just like that, the apology. The reset. She didn't want to talk about it. And I, exhausted, confused, and honestly relieved she wasn't angry anymore, didn't push. It became our rhythm. I start to break. That fall, I started waking up in the middle of the night with panic attacks. My heart racing, my chest tight, hands shaking. I stopped talking to my friends completely. Even Jess, who had texted me a dozen times. I didn't respond. Because how do you explain that you're scared to talk about your relationship because your partner might somehow find out? I started questioning everything I did. Every word I said, every text I sent, every second I was late from work. I lived in a constant state of preemptive apology. But the thing is, Lena wasn't always cruel. That's what made it so hard. There were days she'd cook breakfast, surprise me with a drawing she made of us. She was a talented artist, or curl up next to me and cry about how scared she was that I'd leave her. I know I'm hard to love, but I'm trying. I swear. And I'd hold her and say, you're not hard to love. You're just hurt. I'm not going anywhere. God, I wish I'd gone somewhere. The moment I snapped, it was a Tuesday. I remember that because I had just finished a Zoom meeting when Lena came in holding my laptop. Who the F * CK is Claire? Claire was a coworker. She'd commented on a Slack thread. That's it. Lena had gone through my messages again, and this time she was sobbing. She said she couldn't take it anymore. Said I was cheating. Said I was making her insane. You want me to be crazy, don't you? That way you can blame me when you leave. She took a glass from the kitchen and threw it against the wall. It shattered. And that was the moment. Something inside me cracked. I remember standing there and thinking, I don't recognize this life. I don't recognize myself. I said, calmly, too calmly, I need to go for a walk. Don't you F * king leave me, she screamed. But I did. I walked out the door. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel guilty for wanting space. I walked for hours. No phone. No destination. Just kept moving. The first realization. That night, I slept at a friend's place. My old roommate, Ben. He took one look at me and said, Dude, you look like a ghost. We sat on his couch drinking beers and not saying much. Eventually, I told him everything. All of it. I expected him to say I was overreacting. That I just needed couples therapy or something. Instead, he said, That's abuse, man. You're in it. And I broke. Right there on the couch. I just sobbed. Because someone else had said it out loud. Abuse. trying to leave. I wish I could say I left right away. But it took weeks. Every time I tried to talk about moving out, Lena would cry. Sometimes she'd beg. Sometimes she'd rage. "You're abandoning me like everyone else. You promised you'd never give up on me. I'll kill myself if you leave." Yeah, that last one? She said it 3 times. And each time, I stayed. Because I couldn't live with the thought of her hurting herself. But I also couldn't keep not living. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I made a plan. The escape plan. I started stashing clothes and essentials at Ben's place. A toothbrush here. Some socks there. Every day, I took something small. I created a separate bank account. Got a P.O. box. Found a therapist who specialized in emotional abuse. Shout out to Sarah, you absolute queen. I knew Lena wouldn't let me leave in peace. So I waited until she was out one day, getting groceries, and I left. Took everything I had packed and walked out the door. I left a note. Not because I owed her one, but because I needed closure for myself. It said, "I'm sorry, but I can't do this anymore. I love you, but I love myself more now." The fallout. She called me 47 times that night. Left voicemails ranging from sobbing to screaming to whispering how much she missed me. Then the texts started. Then the emails. She found my P.O. box and sent drawings. Letters. A mix of love notes and accusations. She messaged my friends, my family, even my boss. Said I was mentally unstable. Said I was a liar. Said I was abusive. I blocked her. Everywhere. I moved apartments. Changed my number. Told my boss everything. Thankfully, he believed me. Healing? Slowly. It's been over a year since I left. Some days I still feel like I'm putting myself back together. Like I'm relearning how to make decisions without second guessing. Like I'm learning how to exist without apologizing for breathing. But I'm in therapy. I've reconnected with my friends. Jess cried when I called her. She said, "We never stopped waiting for you to come back." I started drawing again. I listen to music without worrying if Lena will think it's too mainstream. I leave dishes in the sink sometimes, and don't panic. I'm okay. Not perfect. But okay. And I'll tell you about the final conversation we had the last time I ever saw her, in part 3. Spoiler, I didn't expect what she said. The message. After I left, blocked her, and started trying to rebuild my life, I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I had this constant anxiety that she'd show up at my work or outside my new apartment or send something horrible to my parents. But after a few weeks of silence, things just stopped. Then, one random Tuesday, I got an email. Not from her usual account. A new one. The subject line was just, "Please." I stared at it for a solid 10 minutes. Against my better judgment, and maybe because part of me was still trying to make sense of it all, I opened it. It said, "Can we just talk once? I won't yell. I promise. I just want to say some things face to face. If not for me, for closure." My therapist told me I didn't owe her anything. My friends told me not to go. But something inside me, curiosity, maybe, wanted to know what she would say when she wasn't performing rage or heartbreak. So I agreed. On my terms. Public place. Daylight. 30 minutes. And I texted my location to 2 friends before going. The final meeting. We met at a park near the library. Lena looked thinner, pale. She wore the same jacket she wore when we met. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She sat on the bench and looked at me like she'd barely recognized me. "You look better. Happier." I didn't respond. I just waited. She looked down at her hands, picked at her sleeve, then finally said, "I know you probably hate me. And that's fair. But I want you to know that I've been in therapy. Real therapy. For the first time. She looked up, eyes already watery. I've realized some things. Things I did. Things I said. I hurt you. Badly. My heart was pounding. This wasn't what I expected. She kept talking. Told me about how she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. How she started reading about emotional abuse and realized, in her words, how textbook I was. Then she said something I'll never forget. I loved you. The way a drowning person loves air. But I also resented you for needing to breathe without me. I sat there, stunned. Because for the first time, I saw Lena, the real Lena, not as a storm I was trying to survive, but as a person who had created her own cage and pulled me into it. She asked if I hated her. I told her I didn't. That I pitied her. That I hoped she kept going to therapy. That I never wanted to see her again. She nodded. Said she understood. Said she was sorry. And then she stood up, walked away, and I haven't heard from her since. Aftermath. It's been a year since that meeting. I still have nightmares sometimes. Still flinch when someone raises their voice unexpectedly. Still second-guess myself in new relationships. But I'm healing. I've learned how to enjoy being alone. How to trust again. How to draw boundaries and stick to them. I started dating again. Carefully. Slowly. The first time someone asked if they could leave a toothbrush at my place, I had a full-blown panic attack. But I told them why. And they listened. And they didn't push. And that, in itself, was healing. What I wish I knew. I used to think abuse meant bruises, holes in walls, hospital visits. But it can also mean walking on eggshells. Constant self-doubt. Feeling like you owe someone your time, your energy, your existence just to keep the peace. It can be beautiful dinners followed by explosive accusations. Handwritten love notes hours after being screamed at. It can be subtle, quiet, invisible. But it's still abuse. If you're in a situation that makes you feel smaller, shakier, like you're always apologizing for just existing, please talk to someone. There is life after this. A big, weird, messy, beautiful life. And you deserve to live it fully. Final thought. Thank you for reading my story. Writing this has felt like finally taking a breath after holding it for too long. To anyone out there who feels stuck, confused, or scared, you are not alone. It doesn't have to end the way mine did. But it can end. And that's the beginning. Love.